Hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have a masculine layered birthday card for you. So let's jump straight in. As you know, I always like to start with all of my paper cut down. So I'm going to let you know what I did here. I have used the MFT A2 sketched rectangles. I used the largest and the second largest to create the two bigger of the one. You can see the one that I'm embossing right now. And I used the third and the fourth smallest to create the smaller layers in the layered card there. So I just took the Darice Assorted Stars embossing folder and I misted it with a little bit of water just to get so that my paper fibers didn't break when I embossed it. And then here I have a panda from Simon Says Stamp Party Like a Panda stamp set. And I'm going to use Gina K's amalgam ink on it because I'm going to Copic color the cake. Obviously, you're not going to color the panda. The panda is black and white. You could if you wanted to change the color. I'm not going to in this case. And this is a nice black ink, so the black looks pretty solid. So I had to move my magnet because, of course, I struggle. I always want to use my magnet because I'm scared the paper is going to shift. But usually it ends up being in the way. So I have to move it anyways. So, you know, it's just one of those things. I stamped it twice just to make sure I had a nice crisp black image. And I am using, on this piece of cardstock here, I have the Neenah 80-pound solar white. And then on my other pieces, I have 100-pound white and black cardstock. And I'll have everything listed and linked below. And then here I have a banner that I'm stamping out from the Simon Says Stamp Woodland Whimsy stamp set. And the sentiment is also from that stamp set. And it says Happy Birthday. And I stamped out the banner. I stamped it out twice. I didn't like the impression of the first one, so I ended up stamping it again. I just flipped the paper over and stamped it again. This is also Neenah Solar White because I am going to take my Copics and just color in a little bit of the banner. So the Woodland Whimsy stamp set from Simon Says Stamp has this banner, and then it also has sentiments that fit inside of the banner. So that's why I'm using these ones. And I had a really fun time trying to line it up and get it centered without it sticking to my fingernails. So as you can see, my nails are done. My nails are now done again since COVID happened, but this video is a little bit older. So I have a hard time with stamps and letting them stick to my fingers. So that's always a bit of fun. Sorry about my head there. I was working on my lining it up, trying to see if I got it lined up. I think it turned out pretty good. So I'm going to take my gray Copic markers. I have C1, C3, and C5. And all I'm doing is shading where the banner folds over on itself. Because if you want to have a white item, it has to have shadow to create some contrast. Otherwise, it just looks like a piece of paper, right? So I did take and use those three grays to flick a little bit of color behind where the banner folds over on itself. And I do put a little bit on the top as well, just to shade the edges. So I kind of just used the brush marker and like flick in a little bit of color, not too much, because I still want the banner to be white. And right now, of course, it doesn't look white. You'll see it later when I actually add it to the card with other colors, that it looks more white than it currently does. I'm still struggling with shading things white, so it's kind of something I'm trying to practice, but that's kind of my method of madness there. It's a little bit interesting. I also used those three C colors, C1, C3, C5, to color the tray that the panda's holding the cake on. He's just like holding onto I guess it's a plate. It could be a plate. And I just colored that in with the same three Copic markers. But I did actually try to make that look gray more than white. And here I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame there. I'm just going to fussy cut out the banner. I believe that there are die set for this stamp set. However, I don't own it. I get the monthly Simon kits. And they don't generally come with dye. I don't think that's ever come with a dye that I've gotten. So I don't mind fussy cutting things. You don't have to. Of course, you could absolutely buy the dye, or you could have just stamped it underneath the panda, but I wanted it to stand up because I wanted it to kind of ground my panda as if the panda's standing on top of the banner. So I did cut mine out, and I am going to put some foam strips behind it. I don't really mind fussy cutting. I kind of find it enjoyable generally because you don't really have to think about it too hard. You kind of just cut around the line, and that's, you know, that's kind of all. But if you don't enjoy it there, you could always buy the die set, or if you have a Brothers Scan and Cut or anything like that, you could skip this step altogether, or you could have like stamped it on the bottom. I didn't, because it does hang off a bit, but you absolutely could have. And now we're going to get on to coloring the cake that the Panda's holding. So for the cake, I made it like a vanilla cake. So I did E53 and E21. I took my lightest color and I laid it across the whole base. And then I shaded in where the icing is kind of dripping off of the cake. And I'm also going to take the darker color, which is my E21. And I'm also going to add dots into the cake. Like I wanted to look like there was holes in the cake, like it was like a fluffy cake, and to add a little bit of texture. And then for the icing, I do BG01, and BG45. And I'm just gonna, like, I always do lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest when I do Copic coloring. This is a really small image. You don't need a lot of color here. It would be stunning with one shade of color. Because I have the Copics, I have a fair amount of colors. I like to kind of play with my coloring and my shading and using different color combinations to kind of try to figure out what can kind of go together. So I do a lot of playing with the markers. But you could use any medium and color this in and it would look stunning. I just happen to have the Copics. So I went back over that with my darkest color. And then for my candles, I'm going to use V15, because they're so small. I only used one color, and it's a striping pattern, so I used the V15 and the BG45, and then I kind of did two colors on the little stripes of the candles, and then I used YR16 to color in the flame of the candles. And here you can see this is where I decided I needed to add texture to the cake. So I'm just kind of stippling on little dots onto the body of the cake. And that's pretty much, there's not much Copic coloring in this one. The image is quite small. So I took some Darice thin foam strips and I just put them behind the sentiment that I'm placing on the bottom there. And I'm going to tell you, it's not quite even. But I couldn't do anything about it. So I left it. And it's just not perfect. And that's okay. So now I'm going to start layering up my layers. So I'm going to use some Gina K Connect glue. I'm going to stick the smallest layer onto its next mat, because if you've been with me, you know that I love to use black mats on everything. This was just my attempt at for me, it was a more masculine card. I used a lot of subtler colors. I used black and white. I mean, the only color on the whole thing is the cake. That's the only thing that's got any color on it, really, because the banner is white, wow, with gray shading. And here I've got some fun foam. I wanted to add some dimension to the layer with the panda on it. So I'm not even honestly sure where I bought this, I'll be honest. So I threw some glue on the back and then glued it down and then cut it off, because it comes in like sheets. And so I just glued it on that way. And then I cut I cut thinner than what the border of the thing is, so that it doesn't hang out the side. So it's a bit thinner. So then here I'm going to stick down my black mat. I'm going to then glue down my panel with the embossed stars on it. And I just wanted a little bit of something in the background. It's subtle. And because you only see parts of it as it pops behind the panda and the layers that the panda's on. So it's quite a subtle effect, but I really liked it. I honestly thought about adding some glitter and adding some things, but I was really trying hard to kind of go a little bit out of my comfort zone and make something that was more, to me, this is a more masculine card, a more male card. So that was kind of my goal. I think I struggled a little bit. It's something that's quite out of my norm, but in the end, I like the card. So I don't know. It's just not my usual style. I usually go for bright colors and like a lot of blending. And there you can see I dropped it and got glue all over it. I don't mind. I used my finger and just wiped it all off. I mean, it's liquid glue, so it shifts around. Like, it's pretty easy to get off as long as you do it before it dries. And I couldn't add, like, I just couldn't go without adding a little bit of bling. A little bit. I only used blue and white to go with the kind of color scheme I had going on here, but I did add some sequins. So I have the Simon Says stamp frosted sequins here. And I only used, I always do uneven numbers, always. I never work in even numbers. I find that if you don't create a pattern with them, it tends to look a bit odd. At least for me it does. So I always work in uneven numbers, so I'm pretty sure that I put down 7 sequins, because I don't ever work in even numbers. Yeah, there you go. There's the 7th sequin. Oh boy, guys. So I'm going to take my Gina K Connect glue. See, this is when I'm still using the crystal Katana. So this is this card was made before I got my Studio Katia embellishment wand that I'm in love with, by the way. But either one works. I mean, use whatever you have. Absolutely. You can pick them up with your finger. I've seen people do that, or tweezers, or whatever you have. But I'm really liking the embellishment wand that I got from Studio Katia. So there we go. I stuck the sequins down with my studio, and then I'm going to take a little, very, very small amount of Glossy Accents, and I put it on the flames so that they would have a little bit of something. Because I didn't add any glitter, so I had to add something else. And I have these things just kind of sitting there, so you have to use them when you can, or they just sit there and you never use them. So very, very small amount on the flames. And that's the whole card, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this card, please hit the likes button. If you would like to come back, I post a new video every Monday, and there's a couple of extras coming up, and I'd love to have you back. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I cannot wait to see you again. Bye-bye, guys.